Hi, I'm Amber Sim. Welcome to South Florida Homes, where we're excited to have a conversation today with our guest, Roberto Giorgetti.
Thank you for having me.
He joins us here today, and he's going to talk through a few of his listings, which we're super excited to hear about. So first, Roberto, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Just want to talk maybe a little bit about your background. What led you to real estate?
Definitely. I think I've always been driven into the people business more so than anything. I pride my brand on being that someone's helper more than pushing product. And when it came down to choosing, where I wanted to take my career path, I was a musician at this point.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, before I got into real estate, I was
Which
teaching
instrument?
guitar.
Oh, wow.
And
Do you still do it?
I still play, but
Okay.
definitely
No
not
more
teaching
lessons,
anymore.
yeah.
No, unless you want one.
I was like, yeah.
And one day I sat down and started kind of organizing my life a little bit. My mom's an interior designer, so I've always been like very drawn to the attractive homes. And
Yeah.
I put 1 + 1 together, and I think the real estate child was born. It was
Yeah.
it was like an aha moment.
Did you inherit the eye, like the interior decorating eye, or?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
you can
yeah.
appreciate the details, but you may not
I
be
think
driving.
I did so for like the male perspective.
Yeah.
Like if I compare myself to my male friends, but then I walk
That's
into
fair.
like a very
Yeah.
well done home. I'm like, I know. I
Yeah,
don't have
this isn't me.
For
This-
sure.
Right now.
For sure.
Well, it looks like one of the properties that you're gonna showcase. Speaking of like accents and finishes, it looks like it's really, really well done. So, I mean, we can go ahead and launch into that. And I just
Yeah.
love to hear some of the details, like where the property is and just about the house.
Definitely. This is a brand new construction home in 7105 Sunset Drive. My apologies. It was recently finished in February. When you see it from the front facade, you do really see architectural lines that
Yeah.
all come together in harmony from the front, but you don't really see the dimensions and the size of the property in its true essence.
Yeah.
So when you walk in through those double doors, you were greeted by 16 feet high ceilings, which I love. You can't
Wow.
really see it from the front.
Yeah.
Has 6 bedrooms, 5.5 bathrooms. It does count with an outhouse. That's where two of those bathrooms and one of those bedrooms is. So you can technically call it like an in-law quarter.
Got it.
Um,
You're
but-
not talking like old school outhouse. Like,
Yeah, no, definitely not.
There were some red flags.
Well, there are
where-
2
yeah,
bathrooms in
yeah,
it, right?
that's
So,
true.
yeah, no, it's a gorgeous new construction. It's been on the market for a little while. Currently, we just price reduced it from 4.1 to 3.9
Okay.
million dollars, but it's most likely going to sit there at that price.
Yeah, at the higher price point, like you're seeing, sellers.
Oh, definitely.
It takes a little bit of time. There's not as many buyers at that price point, so
Definitely.
that's what's expected. But it looks like a gorgeous house.
Oh, it's so well done.
Yeah.
The main thing is the privacy and the peace you get
Yeah.
in the pool area with these 16 feet high ceilings. Like
And so it's one story too.
It's one
so they
story.
intentionally, is it 16 feet throughout, or is it
no,
just when
just
you
in the
walk
greater area, and then the
Okay.
master bedroom is the second highest point at 14.
Okay,
The
so it, like,
remainder of the
has
house
different
varies,
levels then.
between
Oh, wow, that's
11
interesting.
and 13 as well.
So it gives it like a little bit more like dimension to
Oh,
the
definitely.
house. Yeah.
And as I mentioned, the front really doesn't allow you to see that because it's so well blended
Yeah.
that when you stand in front of the property, you're not imagining the 16 feet high ceilings, right?
Yeah.
I think the trees do a beautiful job in blending it. You also have this gorgeous summer kitchen, right, where it's fully equipped outdoor kitchen into a gym space next to its own full bathroom
Oh, wow.
that pretty much is for the pool use as well. And then
Yeah.
around that summer kitchen, you'll find the in-law quarter.
So it definitely has like that wow factor, especially like you mentioned, you don't know kind of like what you're going to see once you go in because
Yeah.
it's so well concealed from the outside. So I imagine you step in and the first thing you're probably hit with is all this natural light from the high ceilings. And it looks like
Yeah.
they have the windows like
Yeah.
up high, which like allows for more of that.
They actually surround all
Yeah.
360 angles of the main room, call
Yeah.
it that. It's also dining room and main room, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, the amount of natural lights, when I am in this property and when I'm showing it, I don't turn on the lights in the main structure, especially if it's like golden hour, because you
Yeah.
can see that golden light showering in. It's beautiful.
It's gorgeous. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what I find sometimes with these newer houses is even though the ceilings are high, sometimes you lose kind of like the bedroom size. They're packing a lot of bedrooms into the house, but it doesn't look like that's the case for this house at all.
If you're looking at the master bedroom, that is a full-size king bed.
Yeah.
Okay, and you still have a lot of room to go.
There's like 3 rooms that could fit in there.
Correct. So the main structure has over 4,200 square feet of construction. The remaining is in the outhouse. Sorry, let's not call it an outhouse anymore. Let's call it the in-law quarter.
It's a fair word. My imagination's just taking places.
So total construction is 6,218 square feet on a 21,700 square feet lot. So even though you have these massive rooms, the kitchen is gorgeous. Just the size of the closet could house a small family. I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
And then the kitchen, I mean, it's just
gorgeous.
a beautifully done kitchen. Every detail was carefully crafted. You have Thermidor appliances all the way through, direct gas line. Very, very nice property.
Is it, so it's natural gas?
It is, for the stove.
Wow. Yeah, I know there have been a lot of construction projects around that area. So we had a listing like pretty close by, actually. And the project across the street, because it's really expensive to bring in the gas lines, but because there's been so much like development of that area, our client was able to just tap into their gas line, and it was like super cheap for him to add to his property, his new construction property. But the original person across the way had to pay like a very, very hefty fee to get the gas line added, and all the infrastructure that goes into building with some of these like added features. But
for sure,
I assume also, given its newer construction, there was a lot of like storm thought, like insurance. Like I'd assume like with the newer houses, I mean, it's a lot easier to get insurance on these properties.
It can be. I think that really depends on the area, right? I think we count with a great feature in this house that the small section it is in is technically unincorporated day territory. So the same rules and regulations. I mean, it's a street behind South Miami and then 2 streets before Glenver Heights.
Does that mean taxes are lower too?
A tiny bit, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the property taxes do. Yeah, they do come. And also, if you did want to do anything to the house in the future for any reason, the permits are also much easier to acquire.
Oh, really?
Yeah, when you're dealing with private little cities, especially like obviously. Maybe not South Miami, but in the Gables, for example, it can be a long endeavor to get your permits in order before you can even start adding and doing things. I think in this particular house, you would have an easier time with that.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I mean, it is interesting, especially like you bring up the Gables. I feel like getting permits there is often like an issue for homeowners. One, because it is like a bigger city, but 2, also just they're so strict about
there's some moratorium on everything.
Of things. I mean, down to like the color you paint your house, like every little detail. And it's what makes it so nice too to be there. So
funny story. I lived in the Gables when I was a kid, and my mom got a hefty fine for painting our front door.
No way.
Yeah.
For the front door.
For the front door.
Oh, I didn't know you needed a permit for that too.
I know. It was a wow moment for us.
Wow.
But I guess it helped me familiarize myself with some of the rules.
Were you in like a more historic house, or was this just
it was just one of the. It was a neighborhood in like Oak Color Bay.
Oh, okay. Okay, nice.
Yeah, the house was probably 2004 construction or
something. Wow, I'm
yeah,
surprised they're like monitoring it. It's a smaller, nice community.
Oh, we lived next to the ex-wife of a commissioner guy.
Oh, so, okay. So they really
story.
had it. So don't piss off your neighbor.
Yeah, definitely. But I think speaking of the Gables, we do have some other properties available for sale right now. One of which is this Venetia property we've been speaking about prior to the show. I think
so is that a single family house or is it a townhouse? Okay.
No, it's a single family home.
It kind of has that look like from the outside.
Yeah.
Single family 2-story. Okay.
Correct. So it's a 1980s construction. So the architectural style, I think, kind of resembles what they were trying to do with the innovation back then.
Yeah.
I think one of the best features about this house, especially because we're talking about how strict Coral Gables is, acquiring permits for a 2-story home isn't the easiest thing to do. This one, you have the blank structure, it has been immaculately kept. So very well taken care of property. You have 5 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms. There's really not much else to say. It's
interesting because like we looked. This wasn't our listing, but we were out pitching and we looked at a place off Bird Road, and it has this exact same style layout down to like the floor tiles that they use. And I'm like, I feel like it's probably the same person who did the build up. But yeah, I think it is that likely, style. Yeah,
it's like this weird mixture of deco with colonial.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, like you're saying, like it has has really good bones. And
Oh, yeah.
I think oftentimes it's like educating buyers to say, you know, I mean, not everyone's a visual person.
Yeah.
And so I think it's like bringing that touch of saying, okay, like, yeah, you're seeing this as it is today, but if you could just have that vision and, you know, some of the changes you want to make aren't that hard.
Sure.
Barring permits
hence like the whole idea and concept of working with new construction projects,
Yeah.
which I think, you know, to touch on that a little bit more, I'm part of a team, the Arellano team. It's a 4-person group, but we have been making strides and trying to work with a lot of new construction builders, which has given us a lot of insight into what a property can be, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes new construction isn't necessarily new construction, but like a pretty much partially / full reno, you know? And,
Yeah.
and when we see something like this valued, you know, $1 shy of $1.9 million in
Yeah.
the area it's in, there's just so much potential into what
Yeah.
it can be. It provides this blank canvas of opportunity. And as you said, for the people who have the eye, which I will remind you, I don't think I'm there yet. But for
But you
those
have a
who
little
can
eye.
see
Yeah.
it, yeah, it's a wonderful opportunity.
Yeah, no, and it's a great location. I think you were saying it's like right off Granada, and
Yeah.
then of course you have the Granada golf course there, which everyone likes to walk around, like North and South Greenway, and then
Yeah.
downtown Coral Gables is walkable. So, yeah, I mean, we've had a couple around this area as well that need a little TLC, and
Yeah.
honestly, it's hard to get people there to see that vision, but you see some really special turnarounds for some of these projects where they can still
Absolutely.
preserve, you know, the houses that do have character, and then,
Oh, yeah.
you know, add like the modern updates. But yeah, I mean, even the fact that you have a double vanity in this, like, it's people don't realize it's just like the space.
Oh, yeah.
Having the space is what's important.
I don't know if you can see the faucets, but I love them. I
Yeah,
feel
yeah, they're cool. It's like the
relaxing
waterfall.
cascade.
Yeah.
It's very nice.
Yeah, it's very nice. Yeah. Do you guys work a lot in the Gables as well, or
Yeah,
what's your main area?
we're, as I said, a medium-sized team. I think that's our area of expertise as a whole. I am, however, the Brickell specialist, to call it that, in
Okay.
the team. I reside in Brickell. I think it's
Yeah.
always a good idea to focus deeply in the areas you know best.
Yes.
But, you know, being a Miami kid myself and having grown up in Coral Gables, it also gives me like a mix of both.
Yeah.
I can recommend restaurants that have been there that people don't know about type thing, you know. And
Yeah.
I love the Gables itself. Oscar, however, is strictly Gables or South Miami as well. I mean, we go as far as Glenver Heights and sometimes Pinecrest.
Okay.
But that's our circle,
That's your-
right? Yeah.
your pocket,
Yeah.
yeah.
I probably wouldn't take a listing in Fort Lauderdale, you know?
Right. Well, sometimes you're working with buyers and you end up there.
Sure. In that
It
case,
evolves. You're like, oh, okay.
don't stop working with me. I promise I will
Yeah,
go there. But the idea of, you know, getting familiarized with an area that quick and also having to take the drive with 95 traffic on a week, because we're very, I think, focused on what we do. And if I'm going to take on a listing, I'm going to be available to show it at any moment.
Yeah. Oh, so sorry. Just to go back to the listing.
Yeah, for sure.
So this is really interesting looking. I didn't even see the staircase before. Can you tell me a little bit like about like maybe just the layout of this house? And I see a lot of like wood details.
Yeah, so there's wooden wraparounds in some of the walls of the main structure in the first floor. This is a floating staircase that's cast iron and wood, right?
Do you ever like slip or what happened?
You can.
Yeah.
I think it's always good
So
to advise
coordinated.
caution, especially
Yeah.
when you have, you know, families going and little kids are running around the house.
Yeah.
But I think that even if you look at it for the remodeling point of view, you have these gorgeous bones of cast iron. You can just add something more modern to the staircase. Removing the wood finishes really wouldn't be an issue, but I myself like them. I'm
like
a
it
classic
too.
guy.
Yeah.
The kitchen's also very, very
Even
woody.
just like painting it white.
Oh, yeah.
Or something like, I mean, not everyone agrees with that methodology, but I feel like once you change the floors in here and add something that like makes it pop a little bit more, lightens up the room, and then you could paint the ceiling white, but I mean, you don't see many houses in Florida like this anymore.
Yeah.
Well, Florida, I guess, but not Miami.
Definitely. It's much more of an older style. I think you can see it here in the great room, for example. It's like technically a sunroom, right? You can see all the natural light that comes through the beams. It's partially blocked, so it doesn't bother your eyes. I think this is kind of the style of architecture that was really happening in the moment.
Yeah.
And this exits out into like a small terrace.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
Yeah. I will say, I don't know if you noticed, the house is somewhat U-shaped.
I didn't see
So
that.
there is a small patio in between the structure.
Yeah, I saw the outside. Yeah.
So the square footage of the lot is 3678, and then construction is 3254, right? So you
The
don't,
lot is
3678.
70.
Yeah. So essentially you have
It's 3,678.
yeah.
The lot?
Yeah.
What?
I know. Yeah.
Wait, really?
Yeah, so you have like about 400 square feet of driveway.
I didn't even know you could do that.
Yeah.
What? Wow, that's crazy.
Isn't it?
Yeah, I feel like
No.
most like 5,000 is like,
No.
I don't even want to say average, but that's like I feel like the minimum
Yeah.
basically.
No, I swear.
Wow.
Yeah, that's also, you asked, was this a townhome or a single structure?
Yeah.
The reason it looks so compact into the walls, they utilize the space very well. And
Oh my
you
God, my
can't
brain didn't even
yeah.
process that. I was
You
like,
can't tell.
No, you can't at all.
At
No.
all.
Wow, that's so impressive how much they were
Yeah.
able to like fit. And the rooms look like they're a good size.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
the bathrooms, I mean,
Yeah,
you still
that's
have a
why the
little
structure goes
terrace.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so
But they're
interesting.
definitely very well distributed. They fit 5 bedrooms in the
Wow.
3,200 square feet of
Oh
construction.
my gosh,
here,
that's
yeah.
insane.
It is.
So, okay, whether you're from Florida or not from Florida, like I love personally, I love the exposed beam ceilings. I love like the wood elements.
Oh, yeah.
But what do you tell someone who's nervous about termites?
I think this goes for any homeowner. Take care of your property properly. There are measures you can take to prevent termites. There's,
Yeah.
especially if you're going to use wood on the outside of your home. You know,
Yeah.
I think on the inside there's easier methods of prevention, but definitely contact professionals to handle this. We have a saying in Spanish, "Lo barato sale caro," which means what's cheap ends up being expensive in the end. So it's very arguable that the money you're saving now, not utilizing all the services in order to ensure that your property is kept the right way,
Yeah.
will come back and bite a little chunk of change at the end.
That is a really,
yeah.
really good point.
Yeah, so I think that's the main thing. You know,
Yeah.
educate yourself, talk to professionals that can help you understand what the right maintenance is for whatever style home you have. But
Yeah.
for wood, talk to a wood expert.
Yeah.
You know, probably.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's an interesting point too, because I feel like tenting or spot treatments, like it's really not that it's a little inconvenient, but also now tenting, I feel like they've made a lot easier.
Oh yeah.
So it's not that much of an issue to do the preventative
For sure.
services, or if you see any sort of like live termite activity, like that would be cause to take action. But it's the the residual kind of damage that they do in the house that ends up being like what's really expensive.
That exactly.
Yeah, so if they're eating anything structural, it's like, okay, yeah, now all of a sudden you've
feel
saved
like
some money short term.
It's not
but
so much of an issue in new construction, and
Yeah.
also new building materials is also something that I've learned about recently. There are pressured, like treated options when you're buying it out, but if you do happen to come across a property that has all the character as this one does,
Yeah.
make sure that it's been properly kept and that they've taken the right measures.
Yeah. And so, okay, that brings up another interesting part of like, you know, the home buying experience. I guess just with like inspections, like these are things that, you know, you just point out that an inspector would come in, they would be able to see, okay, we can actually like see if there's termite damage, like we can see
Oh, yeah.
the structural elements. So like even when you go to buy a house, and this is like a cause for concern, when you're buying a house, you go through the inspection period, and then you still, if there's anything that's alarming, or you can see, oh, maybe the owner, not in this case, obviously didn't take care of the house,
Yeah.
you'd say, okay, yeah, maybe this isn't like the right investment for me.
Yeah, it also opens up a negotiating part of things, right?
Exactly.
Sometimes there's unforeseen issues in properties, and I think it's not always cost to kill a deal,
Yeah.
but sometimes cost to make the deal better.
Yeah.
You know, I think for both people, because sometimes sellers are just trying to get over the property and like get
Yeah.
it out of their systems quick, and sometimes buyers don't just want the credits for whatever reason. You know, I think that's a great point.
Yeah.
Definitely, it matters who your inspector is too. You know,
Yeah.
that's a very important thing I tell my clients. Don't work with anyone that does it cheap. Work with people that do it right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and to your earlier point, it's like, yeah, the seller ends up paying it if there's all that deferred maintenance anyway.
Correct.
So it's like, yeah, you're not paying for it. Maybe you're passing it on to the buyer. But if you
Yeah.
have the right person, you have the right inspector, they're going to go in and they're going to
yeah.
say, no, actually, there's all this maintenance that needs to be done on the house. So,
Yeah.
and to your point, it's a really great negotiation leverage that
Absolutely.
you have. And, you know, it maybe is like a mindset shift for the seller
Yeah.
to understand, okay, actually, yeah, my asset does need some work, and anyone who's going to buy the house is probably going to have that experience unless they have a bad
Oh, for sure.
inspector. So
No.
it is like, I mean, it's an important investment that you make. So it's like your due diligence. It really does matter. And that's another, sorry, I keep going back to your
No, please.
saying, but yeah, you're paying a lot for the inspections, like, and you do all your due diligence, but in the end, it's going to save you some money if you're able to actually get credits back for the house and you can do the work and take care of the
definitely.
property.
Once again, lo barato sale caro.
Yeah, I'm going to start saying that.
I've been hearing that since I was a kid.
Yeah,
and
well, it makes sense.
It's engraved in my brain.
Yeah, it makes sense. Well, yeah, it's like we take all these shortcuts and then it's like, okay, in the long term, you pay for it, whether it's stress.
Oh, yeah.
Actual cost.
I think stress is like the most expensive thing, by the way.
I know, it is. No, truly, because then you have all the residual like health things that come with that too. So, it's a good way to live your life. So it's wise.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's certain things you just don't want to take the burden of, right?
Yeah.
It's like you wouldn't go to a cheap doctor.
No, exactly.
You wouldn't go to a cheap lawyer if you're in trouble. It's kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
For anything real estate. I think that applies from realtors onto everything else, right?
Definitely. And like, I mean, we have a deal right now where we're actually, our buyers are purchasing a 100-year-old house. So it was actually like one of the first 6 houses that was built in the Gables on this street. Amazing. So like most of the Gables, it was all plotted in 1921, and then 1924 was a lot of the houses had actually been like built. So this house is super cool. It has so much character. It's a 100-year-old house. There's a lot of stuff that came up.
Oh, I'm sure.
But I mean, they had great inspectors. They were able to catch a lot of these things. The sellers worked with us to give credit so that they could do some of the work. So
sorry, can I ask you, did that take away from the historic value of the property, or do you think it was just, the property is in such dire need of these repairs that?
I think the people that purchased it previously didn't have good inspectors. Because we actually saw their inspection report, and a lot of the very obvious things that were deferred maintenance weren't caught on that. So I think that was probably the main issue, where there was not enough due diligence done on the property, and so they were kind of shocked. Everyone was shocked because the inspection said, "Oh, the roof is 2012." It turns out, no, the roof is over 20 years. Like, like it's just. They had a bad inspection. So, I mean, these are more like, 4-point inspection type issues, less so about like kind of the character and things in the house. But yeah, it's a trade-off. You get character, you get the historic elements. This house actually isn't even historically designated, which is crazy.
That is kind of nuts.
It's kind of nuts. But yeah, I mean, it's like we're saying, it's not an issue, but it's important to have the right people. But this concludes our time today. Thank you so much again for coming in.
An absolute pleasure being here. Thank you for all the questions.
Of course. Yeah. Thanks for sharing these listings. Super exciting. And thank you for everyone watching. This is South Florida Homes, and we'll catch you next time.